Good evening, everyone. I'm just letting everybody in just before we get started.
Why? I don't know. Oh, because he logged into it, didn't they?
We can hear you, so you are.
Can you hear us? Yeah, sorry, we're just looking.
No, it's fine.
Oh,
it's
you're fine. Don't worry.
This is Finn Jordan. It might be coming up as Pat Jordan.
Okay, no worries.
I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes to see if anybody else joins us, and then we will get started.
You can rename yourself at the top if you would like to, but don't worry too much. We allow all names here, so no worries.
Hi.
Hey, Harry, good evening. We'll get started in a second.
That's fine.
It seems a long time when you're waiting, doesn't it? As I said, oh, I'll do 2 more minutes, and it seems to be a long 2 minutes.
I'm just happy it's light, because I think when we first did this, it was November and it was so dark, and it's nice for it to be light outside in the kind of spring summer.
Yeah, it's been lovely weather recently, but it keeps going cold.
Monday, 1802.
I will be letting people in if they join late, both. So
Yeah, should we get started and then they can come in?
Yes, I think we will. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea, and I am the project assistant from Look. Tonight is the sport Look Into, which we're all very excited about here. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. So if you could all remain muted whilst the speakers are speaking. Please, if you have any questions, please either put it in the chat, or when the speaker is finished, and just unmute yourself. Rupert will invite you to ask any questions at that point. Please be kind to each other and use nice language. And just to make you aware, this is being recorded because we are going to make a resource out of it afterwards, and it's also being live streamed to YouTube, which is very exciting. So I am now not going to waste any more time, and I'm going to pass you over to Rupert, who is our fabulous facilitator for this evening.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me okay. If I drop out, just someone shout at me, but I think we'll be absolutely fine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session, this Q&A session, the look into being a VI sports person. I'm sure you know because you've come along, but Look is a brilliant charity. They're a small charity, but they work all over the country supporting VI young people and families through a few different things, but the main thing is through peer mentoring. So some of you who've come along may be mentees or mentors. So I volunteer for Look as a mentor, and I'm one of hundreds of VI adults who offer support through online mentoring, and hopefully some more face-to-face mentoring soon, which will be really good because now things are getting a little bit more back to normal. It means we can do things in person, but also online stuff is great as well. Because I'm out in Norfolk, I'm miles away from most people, so it's nice that we can all come together online, so that's pretty good. So the Look Into series was inspired by our youth forums that ran throughout the pandemic, and I was doing some of the music forums because I'm a musician, kind of is my background, and it was a chance for young VI people to come together and play music and talk about music, and particularly during the lockdown when it was quite scary, that first one in particular, when we didn't really know what was going on. It was a really wonderful time to come together and to kind of share our love of music. And from that, we've started to invite guests to come along. And we had our first look into session was with a professional musician. And then we had a look into being a professional actor, a VI actor. We had look into being a VI scientist, and tonight is looking to be a VI sports person. And I know certainly the science one is on YouTube, but I think the other ones will be as well, particularly the acting one, I think is. So do check them out if you're interested, because they're all our guests, no pressure to our guests tonight, are brilliant. And they've done amazing things, and particularly with wanted to shine a light on people with vision impairment who've kind of thrived and adapted and changed. Because when you're VI, you kind of need to make little changes to make things in life, to make things happen for you. So it's amazing to speak to people who've been through that and been really successful. So just to let you know, as Andrew said, you can put comments or questions in the chat, which would be great, and I will come to them a bit later. And before then, we're going to hear from our guests. So let's move over to our first guest tonight. We've got two guests tonight, two fantastic guests. Got Martin Simcock. So Martin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and what position you do now?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So good evening, everybody. My name is Martin Symcox, and I work for Metro Blind Sport and also Thomas Plockington Trust. So I've been with Metro Blind Sport for 3.5 years. And just very briefly, Metro, before we have the questions, Metro Blind Sport is a London-based charity that delivers a variety of different sport and physical activities. And we've been doing this for nearly 50 years. So there's plenty of sports that I can talk through this evening. So if you've got any questions about any particular sports that you're keen on, I'm sure that I can share some information on them.
Great. Yeah, I definitely agree. Later on, when everyone's probably a bit nervous because we've started, but as the guests talk a bit more, do feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like in the chat. It's not one question per person. So yeah, anything you want, let's pick the brains of our guests. So thank you very much, Martin. We'll come back to you in a second. And our second guest this evening is John Mcdougall. And John, could you tell us about yourself and tell us about what you do, what your position now, and a bit about your background?
Yeah, cheers, Rupert. Yeah, so John Mcdougall. So I play and captain the England Posh Side football team, and then I play for Birmingham Sports. So that's my local VI sports club as well. And then in my day job, I work at Queen Alexandra College, which is a specialist college based in Harborne, Birmingham, as the lead work placement coordinator.
Brilliant, great. Thank you very much, John. And we'll start with Martin, John, but we'll come back to you in a minute for some questions. Brilliant. So Martin, you've told us a bit about the charity you work for, Metro Blind Sport, and you mentioned the Thomas Plockington Trust, who are quite a big VI and blind charity, which is great. Could you tell us a bit about why you think sport can be so beneficial for people with disabilities, such as vision impairments?
Yeah, of course, Rupert. Yeah, so I mean, we believe that sport and physical activity are just really crucial. One from that physical health nature, but it often is much broader than that in terms of what sport and physical activity can lead towards. So not only is it being physically active, but actually there's some of those side benefits that come with it. So we've got many examples of members at Metro Blind Sport that have become more confident because they have travelled to and from activities. They've widened their friendship group, so they've found more people that that they can share information with, they can share stories with, that they can chat about sport with, and much more than just sport. We've very much heard about examples where people have come along to sport not quite sure whether they like it or not, but give it a try, and then that's led them to try maybe not the sport that they start with. It maybe take them into slightly different directions, whether that's strictly into sport, or it becomes perhaps more more leisure-based activities that they've got in that they've got involved in. But what we really do like to hear is those influential stories that that people come across when they come along to sport. They speak to people about going to college or to university. They speak to people about going to work and having relationships and those types of things. But just as important is that they share stories about living with sight loss at the same time. So some maybe some ways in which they use apps or things like that to help them with things in everyday life. So sport is really important for physical health. We would encourage people to be as active as they can be. But also we've got examples of where it's helped more broadly in life. And as John, I'm sure, will come on to talk about later on, of where sport can be played competitively, and you can play and represent your country at the same time.
Yeah, amazing. That's great. As I said, my background, I used to play in bands quite a lot at school and university, and it's the same. I think it's similar with music, where you're learning an instrument, but you're learning so much more around it as well. And when you play music or sport with people, you're not just focusing on that, you're kind of interacting and you're talking about other stuff. So I think that's a really important point, that it's healthy and it's great for you, but you're just building all that other stuff around you as well, which can just be accidental, but also really important. So that's great. How about any projects, Martin, that you've worked on across the years, or anything that Metro Blind Sport have done that you're particularly proud of? Does anything jump out?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we were established in nearly 50 years ago. It's our 50th anniversary next year, and throughout that time, one of our founding members will say that he's tried over 50 different sports or activities by being involved with Metro Blind Sport. So, I mean, in terms of sports that are available, nothing should be considered to be off limits. But in June this year, we are returning to our annual athletics event. It takes place at the Mile End Stadium in London, and this is one thing that we are really proud of. It's happened. This is our 44th year that we're going to be running this athletics event. So we have an athletics event, track and field activities that occur on the 11th of June. Like I said, people can take part in various running events or field events, long jump, high jump, javelin. And it's a chance for people, it has been a chance for the 43 times that we've done it before, for people to take part in an athletics event. We have starters, we have timekeepers, we have England athletics officials. So it very much is a run as an event that people can either take part and have a go. It's all about fun at the end of the day, and there are people there that take part and want to improve their personal bests. So that's one thing that we have been really, really proud of in terms of one sport that we deliver. But there are many other examples as well. We've just had a group of people that have just returned from Norway, where they've been skiing. We've supported them to go skiing, and that's again another activity that has been running for 40 odd years, where people have been going to Norway to take part in cross-country skiing. But we've got several activities that occur on a regular basis. We've got examples of people that have taken part regionally and nationally. But again, one of the other thing that I suppose sport that we've been really proud of in recent years is visually impaired tennis. So 2 or 3 of our members were really, I suppose, the pioneers for bringing visually impaired tennis to the UK. And that's one sport. It's one of the fastest growing visually impaired sports that's happening right now. It's really, really easy to get started with. And so again, that's something that we've been very, very, very proud about as well, Rupert.
Amazing. That sounds great. The chap who's played 50 sports, I don't think I could name 50 sports, let alone play them. That's amazing. And yeah, VI tennis, I always get really into the tennis at Wimbledon, the kind of wheelchair tennis, and I'd love to see some more kind of disability tennis. That'd be great. Thank you very much. Just to let people know, there are some people watching on YouTube, which is great. So hi, you guys. Feel free you can ask questions there as well, and they'll be fed back to our guests. So feel free to ask questions there as well. Brilliant. Thanks, Martin. So in terms of, as I mentioned, I'm out in Norfolk, which is brilliant, but it's a long way from places like, for example, Mile End Stadium and kind of places where there's more people and there might be more opportunities. I know we've got some good goalball teams out here in East Anglia, but again, it can be, depending where you live, it can be an hour and a half drive. So how do you recommend people kind of find out about new sports or places they might go to have a little go at something or find out some more information? Is there any top tips?
Yeah, there's some tips that I can provide. So as a starting point, I would say for people to visit the British Blind Sport websites. They have an activity finder function, so you can put in your postcode, so where you live, and then that will give back a list of a number of inclusive clubs in your area. So that would be a starting point. In each sort of local area, there's an organisation that's under the banner of an active partnership. So they are county-wide. So there's an active partnership for Leicester, there's an active partnership for London, and so on. They might not be called Active Partnership Leicester, but if you go on the Active Partnership website, again, put in your postcode, it will bring the one that's local to you. And they will have, whilst they're not necessarily direct deliverers of sport and physical activity, what they are is very much the coordinators and the people that will be knowledgeable about inclusive activities in those particular areas. For delivery itself, I'll go back to British Blind Sport again. They do some have a go days around the country. So they've got a list of have a go days that they're going to be doing for the remainder of this year. I think the next one's in Kent. Then they go to Birmingham and Exeter and Swansea. So they move around to different locations, and what they do on those days is to spend a day delivering different sports, so people get to try different things. I would encourage people to go to their local clubs, and hopefully those local clubs are able to provide inclusive provision. And I suppose what I would also suggest that you do is to speak to your local sight loss charity that's perhaps working in your area. Whilst it might not be the primary role that they carry out in terms of delivering opportunities, they certainly will know of people that do that, and they may well do one or two activities that occur throughout the year. So yes, a mixture of different places to go to.
Yeah, no, definitely, that's great. And always ask your QTV if you've got teacher vision impairment as well. They're a good source of knowledge for any opportunities. But yeah, brilliant, that's great. How about, so moving on to being a professional sports person, that obviously we'll touch on with John in a few minutes when we move on. But a lot of people you ask them what they want to be, and they might want to be a footballer, a cricketer, rugby player, kind of professionally, which is brilliant, but it can be a really tough profession to get into. So do you think it's important to kind of play sport for fun as a hobby as well as trying to do it professionally? Kind of how does that balance work with kind of people you work with?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of people that we work with are playing for fun, and they are playing for fun and want to see. Some people want to see some improvements, and so that's great. We provide coaching, but yes, sports should be very much as a starting point, as a fun activity, as a way of improving your physical health, of doing all those things, I suppose, that I mentioned earlier. And sport can be so sociable. There's a lot of people that I used to knock about with as a child that I would have done so because I met them through taking part in some form of sport and physical activity. So yes, the starting point of sport is fun. Make it fun, and then if you start to become really good at that sport, then John, I'm sure, can talk about all the wider benefits that come with taking sport that little bit more seriously and being competitive with it.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. And I've got a couple more questions, Martin, and then we'll go to John. We'll do participants' questions at the end. So remember, if you've got any questions about anything, anyone watching, do drop it in the chat. So again, thinking about being professional, so having it as a job and kind of being paid. There's lots of jobs in lots of careers, particularly in sport, that aren't being, the sports star, the person on the football pitch or on the athletics court, but the people kind of behind the scenes in the sports industry. So what type of roles might there be for people which are kind of more, you don't really see, but are still working in the area?
Yeah. I mean, I would, and again, I think my starting point here again is that there's nothing should be considered to not to be off the table here. Everything is very much possible with some adaptations. So I'll give just a couple of examples, and they're quite different roles. But we have. I was speaking to a young man just last week who has recently qualified as a personal trainer. So he did his personal training qualifications whilst at college, and then was fortunate enough to work for a gym. So he's now working there. They provided him with all-inclusive and adapted training so that he could start that role. And by doing his qualifications at college, again, they were able to make those small adjustments that he needed in order to, I suppose, go through the learning material to be able to get to a point where he could be qualified. So that's I suppose one example of working in the, I suppose, more broader leisure sector. So being a personal trainer to improve other people's health. Another example that I've got is one of our members who John may well know, who's a VI footballer. He in his previous job, he worked as sort of head of inclusion at the Tottenham Hotspur Football Foundation. So he was working right next to the stadium. He was organising and helping to deliver inclusive programs in and around the area where Tottenham Hotspur are located. So again, another example of somebody staying very much in sport with a professional club, but just, I suppose not playing as a professional athlete at that time. So again, my starting point was everything is possible, and everything is possible. There just might need to be a few adaptations just to make progress through that particular career that you want to set out.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Martin. And then final question from me is about the impact of events like the Paralympics and kind of blind football or any VI sport being on the telly and people being able to watch it and to listen to it on the radio, and how important you think that is for anyone, but particularly for young VI people, to kind of be able to actually see or hear or understand what the rules of the game are and get excited. How important do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it is really important that there's more sport on TV and on radio that young people can, like you said, can watch or listen to. I suppose it provides people with an understanding of what those sports are, how they, what the rules are, how people get involved. There's often very much with the Paralympics an overview of what that sport actually is and the rules of that game before actually the live footage or the TV program starts. And again, I suppose what we can see here is that people are representing their country often, with, clearly with the Paralympics, and we often hear their journey in terms of getting to take part in that sport as well, which hopefully will inspire some young people to give it a go themselves. And there are examples again of where young people have taken part in one particular sport, but have found a passion in another sport by going along to sort of talent spotting days and those types of things. What was great just recently is that the finals of the disability-based football competitions were screened live on Sky, and I think that's just a great way of other people being able to see what those sports are, the slight different adaptations that occur, but hopefully they're there to inspire and encourage young people to take part in those sports and give it a go. And obviously have fun first of all.
Yeah, fun is the most important. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Martin. Virtual round of applause for Martin. Thank you. Well, maybe we'll be back to you, Martin, before the end with some more questions. Thank you very much. John, I'm going to come over to you now. So could you tell us a bit about your role as the captain of the England VI football team? And also, how does it feel to represent your country? It must be amazing. I can only dream.
Nah, listen, massive honour. I've been very lucky. So I've played for England since I was 16. So I'm 34 now, so it's been a while. Wow. Yeah, massive honour. And the group of lads that we've got now are fantastic. I'm very proud to be part of it. And yeah, just honestly, just really pleased about everything. It's great to see some of the young lads coming through. And Martin touched on some really good points. It's not just knowing them as footballers, it's knowing them as people and watching them develop and grow and get jobs and stuff like that. It's been brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, I loved every second of it.
Amazing. And so I'm sure Martin won't mind me saying, but Martin works with VI people, but he's not VI himself. Do you mind telling us a bit about your condition or your vision?
Yeah, so I've got Stargardt's. So I was born fully sighted, and then it sort of come on. I probably noticed it about 8 or 9 years old. Then it probably got diagnosed at about 12. So in mainstream primary secondary school. So Stargardt's, for those that don't know, it affects your central vision. Mm-hmm. So stuff like print and detail is really affected. Yeah. So yeah, and then it probably stabilised about 2021 and just stayed the same since then.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I've got a condition called Best's, which is a macular condition, and yeah, big blind spot in my left eye. But then the vision is stable now. But yeah, it can get worse and then plateaus. But yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Well, it's hard being VI any time, but particularly when eyesight deteriorates, it is really tricky. How did you find school in terms of kind of being supported at school? Some people have it kind of easier than others. How did you find school?
Yeah, it was all right. I think my sort of saving grace was football. So I was all right at football. So, captain of school teams, and also you'd sort of get left alone. You get away with it a little bit. In terms of sort of learning and stuff, to be perfectly honest, I probably didn't learn that much the last couple of years in secondary school. And that's partly down to me not accepting the sort of support I needed and adaptations and stuff in the classroom. Like I wouldn't use visual aids or anything in the class. Yeah. So I went to like an inner city secondary school in Birmingham. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, for you to start using aids in the classroom, it just weren't. I weren't. So yeah, that's me being totally honest. So yeah,
it's a personal journey. So I'm a QTVI, so we get students who aren't ready for it, which is absolutely fine. And I'm working with a student at the moment, a 16-year-old who lost his sight recently, and he's really struggling. But we're making progress a little bit at a time, and it's kind of when you're ready for it. And later in life, we'll come on to, well, I'll ask you now, John, I was going to come on to it later, but what kind of stuff do you use now that you find really helpful? Any kind of tech or any tips that you kind of can't live without now?
Yeah, so I use a magnifier every day, carry that with me everywhere. And that's something I would never use when I was a kid, like on a bus or anything, on a train, or I wouldn't let anyone see me use it. And to be fair, you realise as you get older, no one cares, no one's bothered. So you just honestly make it easy for yourself. So I use a magnifier every day. And then when I'm in work, I use a CCTV. So anything on paper, I slide under the screen and fill it out using that. And then I use Zoom text. So you have the text magnified and then use speech as well. So to be honest, I've got loads of technology. And that was another thing that I weren't very good at, was computers, because I just backed away from using them, didn't like them, couldn't read them. Yeah. So that was something I had to learn as an adult, which was hard. It's a nightmare. So, that'd be something I'd always encourage people to do as well. Don't be worried if you need to get close to a screen or use speech and all that. Like, honestly, once you get over that little bit, computers are brilliant. Technology is amazing now. Like, the stuff that's out there is unbelievable.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm a big advocate of tech, and things like iPads. They're just so normal, which I hate the word normal, but they're so mainstream. Yeah. People know you can have one on your desk and people won't go, oh, what's that? They'll kind of want one. Whereas if you've got CCTV on your desk, it's a bit different, isn't it? It's a bit bigger. And brilliant. Thank you. Let's go back to football. So you played football at school. Were you playing sighted football, and kind of what's the difference between sighted football and VI football, and when did you start playing or learn about it? And kind of
so like I said, we're mainstream primary secondary, so just played sort of mainstream football, sort of captain football team in sort of primary secondary. I'd been in and around sort of district standard, but wouldn't have got past that. I was nowhere near an academy or anything like that. But yeah, just running the mill, and then heard about visually impaired football probably about 14, I'd say. 14. We used to have this, I think it's called visiting teacher service. You used to come out to schools when you got diagnosed with VR, and they're coming off your support and all. and they told me about it. So I played in a couple of, I was 13, sorry. So I played in like an under 14 event, like a national one-off thing, played that. And you could tell then you're one of the better players. And then got in touch with my local club, so Birmingham Sports, when I was 15, started playing for them. And then played properly when I was 16. So played for them since I was 16, and then got into the England team more or less straight away when I was 16 as well. And then it's wicked. It's weird. We play futsal, which is basically five-a-side football, but you don't play to boards. You play to a line. So when it goes over the line to kick in, you stop and bring it back in. And our keepers are fully sighted. So obviously, for those that have been round partials, a partially sighted person in goal, you're at a massive disadvantage. And probably the standard of the game, you lose the standard of the game as well. So there's no bell in the ball or anything like that with the partially sighted futsal. That's like blind football, which is different.
Right.
But yeah, for partially sighted football, to be honest, if you watch that on telly, you might not even know there's a difference.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, great. So, and again, if people want to find out the difference between kind of where you can do them, have a look. We put the link in the chat to the activity finder. So yeah, definitely have a little look. And what about playing? So I read that you played in kind of World Cups and played so where has it taken you football? What's the kind of most, I don't know, the coolest things you've done or you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah, so, I mean, with England, like I said, I'm really lucky to play for England. In terms of going to places I'd never have gone before, I've went to play in Argentina, Japan, a couple of places around Europe, Austria, Turkey, Italy, just places you might not go to normally. Getting to see different cultures and people, that was amazing. And then in terms of the football itself, obviously playing in the World Cup final was brilliant. But to be fair, it's everything that comes with it. So, so for England, I played 79 times, and your last one means as much as your first one. We've got a phrase in our squad where it says play every game like it's your last one, because eventually it will be. So, listen, honestly, I can't speak highly enough of what he's done for me. And if I didn't have football, I don't know what I'd do genuinely.
Oh, amazing. And so talking about that in terms of Martin touched on it as well, the kind of social side and kind of meeting friends and stuff, how has that helped you with your kind of meeting other people who are VI? Has that kind of been a big part of it and kind of building confidence?
Yeah, massive. So also, like I said, I went primary and secondary mainstream, but then I went to RNC in Hereford. Yeah. So the college, VI college. And to be fair, that's the first time I've really been around a lot of VI people. And it took me a while to get used to it, to be honest. And I felt like I didn't fit in there because I thought, you could say that horrible word, normal. It's not normal for you. You're normal. To you is you're surrounded by sighted people where you're not accessing everything. So that was a big learning curve. But like Martin touched on, sort of soft skills you learn, like confidence and stuff like that, through the roof. And to be honest, you just come to accept it. It's part of you. Like, I genuinely consider, being partial as a blessing. I hated it when I was a kid. I'd have done anything not to have it when I was a kid. But the older I've got, it's honestly a blessing. And then the other bit is playing football. Like, you do make friends, of course you do. It's a social thing. And I play with different teams. Obviously, Birmingham and England are different. So Birmingham's a real social. Still really good players, really good players. But it's very much social. Lads are giving up the weekends and stuff to go and play for a laugh. And then England's the other bit where, of course, it's very professional and it's great backing from the FA. And we try and win every tournament we're in. But you have different groups of mates, and honestly, all the lads that I'm mates with from football have just all done brilliant. So they're all just partial kids, probably brought off a little bit at school, and have all went on to buy their own houses, being really good jobs, have families, kids. So yeah, I think that's the other side of it. No one really tells you that you're going to pick up. And being 34 now, I've seen some lads that have come into squads at 16, 17, and they've gone right the way through. And now they're, like I said, bought a house, got a great job, family, kids. It's brilliant. And it's just such a positive thing to see so many VRs doing so well.
No, that's great. And I definitely back up what you say about not wanting to be fully sighted. I kind of in my career and kind of working with charities like Look, I feel so lucky that I can talk about it and understand it. And it can be really annoying sometimes. Even now, like not being able to drive, I find really annoying. And sometimes I get in a mood about it, like I did when I was, 16, 17, but I wouldn't change it because it does offer so much more, and you learn so much and become so resilient, I think. So It's great. We should embrace being VI. Have tough days, but there's also some great days as well. In terms of thinking back to school again, John, in terms of kind of any coaches or teachers, was there anyone who, so it sounded like the teacher who came in and suggested kind of, partially sighted football was maybe influential, or is there anyone who stands out?
To be honest, it was a tricky one because, to be honest, I still don't think the teachers know about my eyes were. Genuinely, because you just play it down all the time. We had one teacher, an English teacher, she was brilliant. She'd always print off what was on the board and pop it on my desk, even though I didn't want it. And eventually I come around to just cracking on with it. So she was brilliant. But the rest, like I said, it was just football. All I wanted to do is play football. Nothing else really bothered me. Especially, I think when you stop learning the last couple of years in school because you ain't accessing anything, you just switch off a little bit. So you're not that bothered. But it makes it so much harder when you leave then because you've got to try and. So I had to do my maths, for example, redo my maths when I left school. The only quals I got, like the only C's, the passes I got was English and PE, and then I had to redo maths, and it was just a nightmare. Just something that I should have done properly in school. And you know what I mean? No one really tells you that's going to be a bit of a pain when you leave. So now, in terms of standout teachers, like I said, the English teacher was good. But apart from that, everyone else just sort of left you to it. The teachers at college were brilliant. The lecturers at college were really good. But yeah.
That's really good. I've been working with a boy today who is the same. He's about to do his GCSEs and he's just getting really tired of it. Can't wait to go to college and move on. But just saying maths and English, get your maths and English because it will be so much easier down the line, not having to redo them. But so yeah, it's definitely still true. And we've had a question from Harry. Harry, would you like to, if you'd like to unmute and ask, feel free, or I'm happy to ask it. So if you'd like to unmute Harry, then feel free. I'll give you a few seconds. Hey, Harry.
Hi. What do you have? Because I'm on the England regional talent program for the for visually impaired football. What do I have to do to make it all the way to get to the end goal, which is to represent England?
Oh, great question.
Yeah, brilliant question, pal. So the thing for me, mate, is don't let someone tell you how you ain't good enough. You've got to believe in yourself more than anyone else believes in you. So if someone said to me, "Oh, you're old, you're past it," to me that's one opinion. It doesn't matter. If 10 people said it, that's 10 opinions. It don't matter. So I think Rupert used the word resilient earlier. So being VR, listen, you're going to get setbacks, pal. Things are going to go wrong. We're not going to get offered a job. Things are going to go wrong 100%. But if you can guarantee you react in a positive way, and we have this phrase in our squad where it says we call it the uncomfortable zone. So actually, we've all done it. You've got on a wrong bus somewhere, you got on a wrong train. It's a nightmare. What do you do? Do you either go home and quit, or do you think I've got to find out to do this? And it goes back to resilience. So don't be scared of being uncomfortable, whether that be your training program, whether that be your nutrition, your diet, whether that be, and no one ever tells you this, but go and play mainstream, even if you're the worst player there. So when I used to play I still play mainstream now. It's hard because you're VR and you're reacting a little bit slower, and you are off it a little bit, and you might be the worst player there, but it builds your resilience, your confidence. You become very determined. All these little things, you've just got to keep going and don't stop. Always make sure you've got a chance of being somewhere. So I've seen it happen in our squad where someone's been on the fringes and people have thought, "Oh, he ain't really that good." And then suddenly someone drops out, someone gets injured, someone gets suspended, suddenly he's in, and then he stays in. So never let someone tell you can't do something. And just be very resilient, and honestly don't stop. If you want it enough, you'll get it if you're willing to work hard enough. But the other thing, pal, no one says this, it's really hard, really hard. Once you get in, people want you out, so someone always wants your place. So you're asking me a question now, you want my place. You know what I mean? So that's good, and you should as well. But it's honestly, mate, the best thing I've ever done, so don't stop.
Awesome. Harry, do you want to be the captain of England VI? Do you want to push John out?
That'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll sort that out for you, don't worry. Is that okay,
Where
Harry?
do you live,
Yeah,
Whereabouts do you live?
Stoke.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, not far.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Harry. Feel free to drop, if there's any more questions, Harry, just drop them in the chat and I'll unmute, we can unmute you again. Brilliant, John. That was, a fantastic answer. Thank you very much. I've got a few more questions. If anyone else has questions, Martin included, feel free to kind of jump in or put something in the chat. So you, as well as your football, John, do you work at a school or college? Do you work with students at the moment? Is that right?
Yeah, so I work at a college. So just on the England thing, we're amateur. So our England squad, we don't get paid. I've never earned a penny playing for England.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it better as well. So yeah, I've always had a full-time job. So I work at Queen Alexandra College, based in Harborne. It used to be a college solely for VI and blind. Now it's sort of just open disabilities. So there's a number of disabilities at the college. And my role is to run a support and internship program and create like employer links so all students can access work placements.
Yeah, amazing. And how do you find working with kind of young people with disabilities, and kind of, is it something I always think it's something I would have really liked to be on the other end of when I was younger, but yeah, how do you enjoy that?
I love it. The kids have got brilliant. A lot of the students are amazing. Like I said, the disabilities vary. We have got VI students there as well. We've got some VI students. I think the biggest thing I like working with them is you can sort of be really honest with them, because we're the same. So I say, I'm the same as you, I've got disability, blah, blah. But you can be a bit more brutally honest. So actually, I think sometimes, and I know I'm speaking for people, but sometimes I think people that haven't got a disability feel a bit, not bad, but think, oh, I don't know if I can say that as well. Because I'm saying, look, I'm the same as you, and listen, it's really hard, or that's a nightmare. Do you know what I mean? So I think I can be like brutally honest and give them like as much good advice as what I think is good advice as I can.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is this similar with mentoring with Look as well. That's the kind of beauty of it, is you relate to each other and you don't have to explain lots of different things. And obviously everyone's different and everyone has different experiences, but you can, we're talking about jobs and stuff. And like you said before, it can be really tricky going to a job and having to explain your vision, and it's like something that can be really uncomfortable. But I think, if you can relate to someone, that's kind of really, really good. So I'll come to my kind of final few questions, then we will see if there's any other questions from our participants. So in terms of advice, you've kind of given some really good advice there to Harry, but is there any general advice about how to, again, but like I said to Martin, that kind of professional versus hobby, because it's a tricky one. It's such a tricky sport, a tricky industry to kind of be right at the top and be in, the Premier League, where there's so many positions under that. But what advice would you give to someone who would like to try and be professional?
I think you've got to enjoy it. So to do well at anything, first and foremost, you've got to enjoy it. And then two, just be honest with yourself. So be the best you can be. And listen, if that's you play once a month and have a kick about and you're not the best player there, that's absolutely fine. If that's the best you can be and that's your level, that's great. And if your level's England, and you're lucky enough to play for England, then great. But I'd just say be honest with yourself. And you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that is what Martin said as well, and it really mirrors through. And it's what I say to students when thinking about careers anyway. Just do something you love. That's why I did music. I did music at GCSE. I did it at A-level, and I went to university and did music just because I love playing music, and it's led me to teaching, which I love. So I think follow what you love, because why wouldn't you? Why would you do something you don't want to do? But great, thank you. And then kind of a question I wanted to end on is talking about when you meet someone new, and obviously if you're meeting someone in a VI situation, like a football team, it's a little bit different. But if you're meeting someone, out the weekend or out and about who's maybe not VI, have you got any top tips about how to talk about your vision? And like I said, I don't always tell everyone. I've got quite a lot of vision and I'm very independent, so people won't look at me and think, oh, he's vision impaired. But my close friends, I'll tell about it. But have you got any tips for talking to people about your condition?
Yeah, I always say to people, especially young people, just own it. So don't let this, I know it sounds a bit cliche, don't let it own you. If you want people to know, tell them that there's nothing to be ashamed of and you've got disabilities, it's fine. But I always think as well, a lot of the time people want to ask, but they don't know how. So actually don't be scared just to sort of take the lead on it and say, for example, if someone does think, by looking at someone that yourself, if someone's looking thinking, oh, what's wrong or what's different or what, sometimes just say, look, do you know what it is? I've got my eyes are bad and posh side, blah, blah. This is what I can't do. 9 times out of 10 people help you. People are all right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But own it and don't be scared to tell people.
Definitely. I back that up. That's brilliant. So thank you very much. And like you say, people aren't, and like what you said earlier, people don't care, which is, people don't care about me. It's kind of a weird thing to get around. Everyone's looking at me. No, they're not. They don't care. But it's true. And it's once you get over that fear and start realizing it's easier to use a cane or use a magnifier, it's just so much easier. Brilliant. So I think I will pause it there with you for John, for questions from me. So thank you so much. That was brilliant. We've already had a great question from Harry. So I'm just going to have a little look at our chat and see if we've got any more questions. If anyone here would like to just unmute and ask a question, then do go ahead. That would be absolutely fine. Question from Harry.
Rupert, I've got a question if I can chip in.
Jump in. Off you go.
I actually put my question into my Eventbrite register, so I don't know if I don't know where that goes. But hi guys, I've got a visually impaired daughter who's 13, and she's at mainstream secondary school, and she really struggles with a lot of the sport that she's involved in. Like, she's doing athletics this term, and the PE teacher, you know, they just don't really kind of seem to really know how to include her always. And I just wondered whether there's any kind of websites or signposting that you could give me that I could pass on to the school that might help them make her PE lessons a bit more accessible.
Good question. Martin, can we come to you first? Give John a little break and we'll come back to him.
So the Activity Alliance are an organisation that I suppose advocate for disability sport and physical activity, and they have produced sort of a series of useful cards, almost things that can be used in order to adapt a particular sport or just a game or something like that. So they've done that. It's on their website, so I could share that with if you struggle to come across that. But they're looking at that as, well, what can we change? What can we adapt? So is it the space? So if we'll stick with John's sport, football, does the space just need to be slightly smaller if they're doing a passing drill or something like that? So just making that slightly smaller for somebody with a visual impairment. So there's a principle called the STEP model, which is, so that's 4 different parts to that about how adaptations can be made, whether it's around the environment, whether it's around people, whether it's around the equipment that might need to be used. So, you know, what we've come across before, we get questions asked, similar to perhaps what you're talking about, is that things like cones used on the floor to sort of highlight where areas are. You don't want to put a green cone on grass, so we want that color contrast going on. You know, we want some form of audible equipment that could be used when playing. That's why VI tennis is just so inclusive as a starting point for tennis, because the ball is audible, it's a bit bigger, it's sponge, so it's not as fast, and can be played by everybody. So again, it's that sort of that people element as well. Is there a buddy that could help in terms of be that audible cue for a direction of where to pass a ball or where to throw something towards? So yeah, using the STEP model, is teachers can look at that, and some of those activity cards, that Activity Alliance have produced. Once you start to look at some of those, the thought process I would have hoped for teachers then would be, I can use that principle across a number of different sports.
Brilliant. What a great answer, Claire. Does that help? Fantastic.
It helps me massively. I wish I'd known about that when she was at primary school, because some of the things that my poor sports day, I nearly pulled her out of sports day year after year because it was just woeful. And I just, really, you know, even some of the parents on the lines would be like, why is the school making your child do that? And I was like, I don't know.
It's really tricky. And from John, I'll come to you in a second if you've got any advice about this. But yeah, from a QTVI's perspective, has your daughter got a TVI you'd speak to?
QTVI, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has a one-to-one TA, but we don't see that much of her.
Yeah, it's really tricky. So we sensory support go out and support students, and parents can get in touch with us if there's questions like this. But I'm doing this exact thing at the moment. I've got a student going up to secondary school, and he loves sport, but he's struggling with it. And one of my jobs is to do some training with the PE department. And the thing with teachers, I'm a teacher, so you just get set in your ways, which is not a good thing to do, but everyone does it. So when you come in and say you need to do things differently, it can be really tricky. But yeah, as Martin said, things like making little pitches. So get her to pick some mates and they go and make a little pitch and do exactly the same thing, but just a lot smaller. So she's not going to get hit by a ball flying from someone getting overexcited. But yeah, I think approaching the teachers is the tricky bit, which you need to do in a kind of way where you don't go in and go, do this, do that. But that's why a QTVI, to have that professional backing, could be really handy if they're free. But I know that everywhere's different. But yeah, John, that was, I've made a note of Activity Alliance because that's exactly what I was looking for. So you saved me a job there. Thank you, John. No, thank you, Martin. Sorry. John, over to you. Any advice on kind of how to make PE inclusive?
It is hard, and some stuff really hard to make adaptable. If I'm being totally honest, there's some stuff like rounders, for example, at school. If I do that, I'll be the first out, never hit the ball. But I just think, it is what it is. I'm just not very good at it. As well, football, you're all right. I think sometimes what the schools are scared of, and I don't know where they get this from, they think health and safety. What if you get hurt? Any kid could get hurt doing any sport. So my approach would be stick them in and ask them. And she probably would have the answers. If she joined in a game and went, I just can't tell the difference between the colour of bibs or the ball's too small, she'll tell them what to do without realising it. So if you can, just encourage them to let her have a go.
Definitely. Good advice, John. I think that's the thing. The individual knows more than anyone. They might not know exactly the tech they need or the techniques they need, but they can tell you, I can't see that, or I'm struggling with this. So yeah, listen to your daughter, Claire. I'm sure you do, but try and pass that on again. That's the hard thing. Passing that on to the staff is the tricky bit. But yeah, thank you so much. That's a great question. I don't have any more in the chat, so I may start to wrap up because we're due to finish in 9 minutes. So that's wonderful timing. So thank you so much to both our guests, and thank you again to all the people who've come along. The best place to keep in touch with any more events that we're going to do, because this series is going to continue with different professions. I know we've got one, we're looking to do one about looking to being a VI journalist, which is really exciting. So that covers loads of things from writing to kind of presenting on TV or on social media. So that's kind of one that we've got coming up, and there will be more look into series events coming up. So that's great. Thank you to our guests. And as I said, if you go to the Look website, look-uk.org, that's the best way to see all the events that Look do. Let's have a look. Let me get a chance to play. Oh, so Harry does have a question. Go on, Harry. We've got a few minutes, Harry. So if you want to unmute Harry and ask, that would be absolutely great.
Because in my area we don't have any opportunities for futsal until I'm under 16. I'm over 16. But I'm under 16 at the minute. I've got 2 years till I can play. Do you have any training tips for me to be able to be at the level I need to be for when I'm over 16?
For futsal, is that?
Yeah, futsal, it's really hard, mate. So you either get really lucky where you live. So I'm lucky that there's always a team not far from me, or you just get unlucky. Some lads live in areas and just nothing's by them. The only thing I'd say about is don't worry too much about futsal yet. Just make sure if you can, you play as much mainstream as you can. Because all the lads that can see, they'll be doing it at a quicker pace with more quality. So you'll be testing yourself and getting better. So don't worry too much if you can't access futsal just yet. There's a couple of things with futsal about born people. There's a couple of things with futsal that are different to football. So it is little things like using the sole of your feet to control the ball rather than the side of your foot. Being able to toe poke a ball, because in football you never get taught that. So there's little things you can do. Biggest thing for me, mate, watch bits on YouTube and try and watch so at the minute it's on BT Sport, the NFS, so that's the mainstream futsal leagues. That's on. Keep an eye on it. It's on Sundays, every couple of Sundays, and that's a really good standard. And you'll hear the commentary. The commentators will talk about things, what's going on, and you'll learn that way. So just keep doing that. Keep playing football. That's the main thing to do. Keep playing as much mainstream as you can. And then when you're 16, so there's a national partially sighted league as well. So you can play in that. So if you want me, man, or anything, mate, just get it off someone on here, and that's fine. I'll stay in touch here. But if you play for a team in that, you meet up once a month playing futsal, and you play 3 half-hour games. So that's really good for your development. And that's 8 times a year. And then alongside the stuff you're doing for the pathway as well, you'll get exposed to loads of futsal.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Harry. That's a really good question, and thank you for getting it in before I wrapped up. And yeah, if you Andrew, I'm sure we'll keep people's people's details on records, and we can hopefully help people keep in touch, because I think that'll be really useful. Brilliant. So I'll just finish off. So yeah, thank you so much for coming this evening. I'm going to pass back to Andrea in a second. Do check out the Look website, and we are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. Thank you to those who've logged in on YouTube tonight. Hi, YouTube. And thank you for the guests as well this evening. You've been brilliant. And yeah, I've learned so much, and I can only imagine how much the participants have learned as well. So brilliant. So Andrea, I'm going to pass back to you just to finish off.
Yeah, just a little thing from me, as well as tonight, which we are going to make a resource out of. I've been doing a lot of videos with VI people in the community about different sports. So we've got cricket and tennis and ice hockey, just to name a few. So I've done little videos with different people, just interviewing how they got into that sport and how you can get into that sport. They will be coming too, so keep an eye out for them. And just to finish, a massive thank you to Rupert for facilitating this evening. You've been amazing as always. And thank you so much to Martin and John for speaking tonight. And thank you to Claire and Helen for supporting me in the background. So I hope you all have a lovely evening. And that's it from us.
Thanks, guys. Have a lovely evening.